on this day and chanting so beautifully, even though it's holiday. Everybody is on the call. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. May I know who all joined this morning?
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Shashla Prabhupada. Very happy to see you, Mataji. This is Preeti Vilasni Devi Dasi from California, from Atlanta. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Priti Vilasni Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your sweet association. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago. And
Hare
very, very
Krishna,
nice recitation, Balavrinda.
Thank you,
inspiring.
Mataji.
Oh,
She was
yes.
waiting. She was waiting that she couldn't recite. She
But
was
she
reciting
did.
12th chapter, right? 15th chapter, and she was like
Yeah.
missing a lot. Oh, I am not getting to recite. I am not getting to recite. I said, okay, long weekend is there. You can recite on that day.
Yeah, very nice.
Very,
recital,
very nice.
Balavrinda.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Indulekha Mataji heard it?
Yeah,
And the previous
everybody heard it.
everyone heard
Yes,
it.
dear, you chanted so
Everyone, yeah.
Beautiful chanting. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji, for encouraging.
We all heard it, Balavrinda. Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
Mataji, and Pranams. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirti Das and Pridas.
I think
Hare
she's,
Krishna.
I think Kirtana Mataji is giving the class.
No,
What?
you will see. Wait. Hare Krishna, Kitida Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your association. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Flavia from Atlanta, and I would love to take classes from Vrinda Mataji. She is so wonderful. If I get born in a house even slightly like yours, Mataji, I will be so blessed. Please bless me, Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Because of Srila Prabhupada, I could give this knowledge to Vrinda. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Pravdear Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your sweet association and chanting so beautifully. Welcome to the call.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devi Dasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your association. Welcome to the call, Mataji. Happy holiday for you, Mataji.
Happy holiday to all of us.
For you, special, Mataji. Hare Krishna. I'll be waiting for another 1 minute. Okay, and then start the recording. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram.
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Nam
Hare-
Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Take me, Vrinda.
Hare
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Nam
Krishna
Ram
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama
Krishna,
Nam Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Ram,
Krishna
Hare Hare, Krishna
Hare
Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama Nam
Ram,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nam Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Nam Hare Hare Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have Her Grace Indulekha Karuna Mataji to enlighten us on the topic of Sri Caitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Khanda, 3rd chapter, 8 to 17 verses. Before I hand over the call to Mataji, I would like to read today's quote from Srila Prabhupada. A madman, what does he not say? And a goat, what does he not eat? Vrindavan, September 4th, 1975. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your sweet association on this special day of holiday that you can give us your nectarian association, Mataji. I'm so fortunate to welcome you. As usual, every time you give the class, I get the opportunity to welcome you. Welcome, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I hand over the call to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. And I would like to thank all the organizers of the call. I'd like to thank Her Grace Preeti Vilasini Mataji, Her Grace Kirtida Sundani Mataji, and Her Grace Vinita Gandharvika Mataji for giving me an opportunity. I know this is the Labor Day weekend, and so it would actually have been so much better if we could hear from Preeti Vilasini Mataji herself, but she was very kind to give me an opportunity to speak a few words on glorifying the Lord today. So we will start with the Caitanya Bhagavat, second, Madhya Khanda, 3rd chapter. So before we start, I'll start with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamahyam Datati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Dharini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati girim yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinadharinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ajanulambita Bhujao Kanakavadhato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambharo Dvijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, whose arms extend down to their knees, who have golden complexions, and who inaugurated the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Their eyes resemble the petals of a lotus flower. They are the maintainers of the living entity, the best of Brahmanas, the protectors of religious principles for this age, the benefactors of the universe, and the most merciful of all incarnations. So, once again, thank you so much for this opportunity to serve, and please bless me and please pray for me that I'm able to kindly be able to speak a few words glorifying the Lord and being of some use in your service. Thank you so much, dear devotees. So we will start. seeking all of your blessings. Please, this is Chaitanya Bhagavat. Very, very difficult for me to even read and understand. So I absolutely have zero qualifications here, but I would like to take an opportunity to say a few words. So today we will be covering text 8 to 17. This is, the section is completely together. So Hai Lena Gaura Chandra Krishna Bhakti Maya Yakhana Ye Rupa Sune Sei Matahaya Dasya Bhave Prabhuya Be Kare Na Haila Prahara Dui Ganga Agamana Yabe Hase Tabe Prabhu Prahari Kahase Muchita Haile Prahar Rekha nahi swase shane haye swanubhava dambha kari vaishe muni se iha balihase Kotha gela nada buddha ye anila more bilai mu bhakti rasa prati ghare ghare se shane krishna re bapare bali khande apanare kesha apanare paye bandhe akurura yanera shloka padiya padikshane Pade prithivite dandavatahaye Haile namaha prabhu ye na akrura Sei mata kata kahe bahye gela dura Madhuraya chalananda Rama Krishna laya Dhanurmakha raja mahotsava dekhi giya E mata nana bhave nana kata kaya dekhiya Vaishnava sabha anande bhashaya. Okay, so translation. Gaura Chandra became filled with devotion to Krishna. Whenever the Lord heard any topics about Krishna, he was immediately influenced by that. When the Lord cried for 6 hours in the mood of a servant, it appeared that the Ganges was flowing from his eyes. When he laughed for 3 hours. When he lost consciousness, he would not breathe for 3 hours. Sometimes he would proudly manifest his opulence, laugh and say, I am he, I am he. Where is that old Nada who brought me here? I will distribute the sweet nectar of devotional service to each and every house. At that time, he would cry and say, Oh Krishna, oh my dear. Then he would wind his hair around his feet. Sometimes he would recite verses in the mood of Akrura and offer obeisances by falling right like a rod to the ground. While fully absorbed in the mood of Akrura, Mahaprabhu lost all external consciousness and said, Oh Nanda, let us go to Mathura with Balram and Krishna and see the royal festival of the bow sacrifice. When the Vaishnavas saw the Lord speaking in these various moods, they floated in waves of ecstasy. So this is the commentary by His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj. So we'll look at it. Being fully absorbed in the service of Krishna, whenever Gaurachandra heard about Krishna's pastimes from his devotees, he immediately became absorbed in those pastimes and displayed the respective mood. He would sometimes become absorbed in the mood of a servant and shed tears for 6 hours like the flowing of Ganges. Sometimes he would remain intoxicated by laughing for as long as 3 hours. Sometimes he would remain unconscious, holding his breath for 3 hours. Sometimes he would smile, proudly manifest his opulence, and exclaim, I am he. If Lord Gaurachandra or Gaurasundara reveals himself as God to people, there is no deviation from the truth. But if demoniac offenders try to ruin themselves by accepting the statement, everyone is God, then they will never be benefited. Although in his Gaura pastimes, Lord Krishna accepted the mood of a devotee and acted as a servant by uncovering the good fortune of the living entities, he nevertheless bewildered many demoniac atheists and impersonalists by uttering statements befitting the Mayavadis. Gaurahari sometimes said, "Where has that old Advaita Acharya gone? After bringing me to this world from Vaikunta, he has left me behind. Simply by his desire, I will distribute devotional mellows to each and every house." Speaking in this way, Gaurasundara wrapped his long curly hair around his feet. Sometimes he cried while loudly addressing Krishna, "O Krishna, O Bapa, O Saumya, O Priya." Sometimes he lost all external consciousness and spoke in the mood of Akrura when he came to Vraja to take Krishna. "O Nanda, let us take Rama and Krishna to Mathura, where we can all see the festival called Dhanur Yajna." So for this, see Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapters 39 and 42. Sometimes he fell like a rod to offer obeisances on the ground. The devotees became so ecstatic on seeing these characteristics. This phrase, Dhanur Makha, verse 16 in this, refers to the Dhanur Yajna or the bow sacrifice. For that we see 10th canto, chapter 42. So he's referring to the Dhanur Yajna of King Kamsa in Mathura, and that's the yajna at which Lord Krishna, he goes and he breaks the bow. So here we see that they're talking about how the Lord displayed his various ecstatic symptoms, right? So the Lord, he has come back. He has been initiated by his spiritual master is Sri Ishwarapuri, and now he's back in Navadvip Dham. And after that, he has been continuously, constantly in meditation of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And he has been displaying ecstatic symptoms throughout this portion, this period. So, and we saw in the last class by Her Grace Antaranga Tulsi Mataji, she was giving us a brief recap of, what had happened till now. She covered till the end of the second chapter of Madhya Khanda. So I'll just continue from there. And because of these ecstatic symptoms, they say that, his mood in this ocean of devotional happiness that he was in, he would keep on crying. He would cry in separation from Krishna. And just a couple verses before, it was said that when on seeing this love that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed, even inanimate objects like wood and stone, that are completely incapable of seeing this love, they also were melted. So that is how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was influencing everyone around him with his ecstasy. So everybody was also, it was that ecstasy was spreading throughout. And here Sri Gaurasundara, he is saying that, yes, I am going to distribute this sweet nectar of devotional service to each and every house. So he is right now going to start the Sankirtan movement in Navadvip. So I thought maybe it might be good if we could just look at what are the various ecstatic symptoms from the nectar of devotion. So I have referred to that section, and we can see. So when a devotee is intensely affected by love for Krishna in a direct relationship with him, or even if it is a little apart from him also, it is known as ecstatic, is essential, existential ecstatic love for the Lord. So there are 8 symptoms that one can display when one is experiencing this ecstatic love for the Lord. Yeah. So one is they would become stunned. They could keep on perspiring. They could, have hairs that are standing on their end in the body. Their voice would falter. The body would tremble. Bodily colors changes. They would continuously shed tears, or sometimes they could be completely devastated. So Srila Rupa Goswami, he says that this is caused when the vital force of the life, the life air is in contact with earth. When that happens, when it's in contact with earth, then one is stunned. But when the vital force is in contact with water, then there's a lot of shedding of tears. This is from the Nectar of Devotion. He says, when the same force is in contact with fire, there is perspiration. When it's in contact with air, then there is, trembling of the body, the hair standing, and voice faltering. All of that happens. But when this force is in contact with the sky, then there is complete devastation. So these symptoms, they are sometimes, they don't necessarily have to manifest externally. We may not see them all the time. Like we have heard special, and we read about the special occasions where we can get a glimpse of that in Srila Prabhupada, right? Where he sometimes expresses it. But mostly the pure devotees, whenever they feel such symptomatic, expressions, that time they are very afraid to display it externally. So most of the time it stays hidden, it stays internal, and it's manifested internally within them. So one of the symptoms that we saw here is that Lord Gaurasundara, he would just cry for 6 hours at a stretch, that it seems like the Ganges was flowing. So Ganges has got such a strong current and it's just flowing very steadily. So in the same way, the Lord, such a profuse overflowing of tears. And this kind of this is also one of the ecstatic symptoms that one can have, right? So there are 3 kinds of tears, and it could be to express different moods. Okay, so it can be out of jubilation, it can be out of anger, or you can cry, you can have tears pouring down because of separation. So here we see how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's crying out of separation from Lord Krishna. So when the tears are cold, they are said to be, due to jubilation. When it's due to anger, the tears would be very hot, right? And but what happens is, this is always accompanied by some irritation in the eye and itching sensation, and so they would constantly be rubbing the eyes. So we see this even in Srimad Bhagavatam also. Rukmini Devi, she was also lamenting, she was shedding tears when when they were talking, Krishna and Rukmini Devi were speaking to each other. But all of a sudden there was a fear, intense fear, that she would be separated from the Lord. And when that happened, without her control itself, she started shedding tears. And those tears, they just fell from her eyes, and all the black ointment that is on the eyes, that got covered even with the kunkuma, and she was so aggrieved that her voice started choking up. So these bodily symptoms that can be manifested in a devotee, sorry, it is in an expression of ecstatic love for Krishna. These bodily symptoms are called anubhava. So some of the practical examples of anubhava are when one is dancing, when they're rolling on the ground, they're singing so loudly, stretching their body, they're crying very loudly, and if they're yawning, they're breathing so heavily, or they completely have lost any idea of other people present around them. They're drooling, when they're laughing like crazy person, when they're wheeling their head, when they're belching. All of these are various examples that describe Anubhava, that show, explain how a person expressing Anubhava is like. So one time, a gopi, she told Krishna that, "Oh, my dear son of Nanda Maharaj, by the sound of your flute, Srimati Radharani has become full of lamentation and fear, and thus she is crying like a Kurari bird." So the same thing when a devotee laughs also. If they laugh like a madman, it is out of extreme agitation. It's out of ecstatic love within the heart. Okay, so this mad laughing, it is called attahasa. We have heard this before. And when a devotee, they get affected by this mental condition, love is expressed through their lips. So that's the laughing sound that's coming. It can be compared to the flowers that are falling from a creeper of devotion that's growing within the heart of the devotee. It's described that just by hearing the flute, the vibrations of the flute of Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva becomes puzzled and he cries so loudly into space that all the demons become vanquished and the devotees become overwhelmed with joy. So also laughter is also one of the indirect ecstasies that can be experienced in devotional service. So there were various instances where different kinds of laughter with different meaning was given in the nectar of devotion. So normally this scholars say that this laughing, it is generally present, it is found amongst youngsters or in old people and in a combination of old people and very young children. So this laughing sound, it is also found in people who are very grave by nature. So once an old man, old mendicant, he came to the house of Mother Yashoda, and Krishna got so scared. He said, "My dear mother, I don't want to go anywhere near the skinny villain. If I go there, he might put me within his begging bag and he will take me away from you." So when Krishna said this, the mendicant he could hear Krishna and he was standing right there at the door. He tried to hide his smiling face. And because he could not do so, Krishna, he started slowly giggling and laughing. So here Krishna, he himself became the object of a laughing affair. Another time, one of the friends of Krishna, he said, and this is a beautiful pastime also, where he said, "Okay, Krishna, if you open your mouth, I'm going to give you a nice sugar candy. Okay, it's going to be mixed with yummy yogurt and you love it." So Krishna, he immediately opened his mouth. But what did his friend do? Instead of giving him this yummy sugar candy with yogurt, the friend, he dropped in a flower in Krishna's mouth. And so when his mouth was wide open, his eyes were closed, he had no idea what was in his mouth. And so he started chewing it. But when he tasted it, his mouth became so disfigured. And when all his friends saw that, they all started laughing very, very loudly. So in such laughing ecstasy, Krishna or matters related to Krishna is the cause for this laughter, right? According to Srila Rupa Goswami, this laughter also can be broken down into 6 different divisions. So some of these are called smita, hasita, vihasita, avahasita, apahasita, and atihasita. Okay, so after we just quickly discuss this, I only have some pastimes to share, so we can do that. The major divisions are smita, hasita, and vihasita. And the minor divisions in this are the avahasita, apahasita, and atihasita. So we look at some small examples where this was displayed in Lord Krishna's pastimes. So, okay, when you're smiling, but the teeth are not visible, and you can know, okay, that the person is smiling because of the way their eyes and cheeks are. Okay, that is called smita smiling. Krishna has a beautiful smile, right? That's we call smita, right? So once when Krishna was stealing yogurt, Jarati, the person in the house, she could detect his activities and she was coming in a hurry to catch Krishna. So Krishna became so afraid, he ran to Balaram and he said, "Oh, Balaram, I have stolen some yogurt. Just see, she's coming to catch me." And when Krishna was seeking shelter of Balaram and when he was being chased, all the great sages in the heavenly planets, they all began to smile. And this smiling is called Smita. Now, what is Hasita? Hasita is when the teeth are slightly visible. So, very, very famous pastime. One day, when the so-called husband of Srimati Radharani, Abhimanyu, he was coming back home, okay? And at that time, he didn't know that Krishna was actually in his house. So Krishna was in his house, and when Krishna saw that, oh, Abhimanyu is coming, he immediately made sure that he looked exactly like Abhimanyu. And he went to Abhimanyu's mother, Jatila, and he addressed her, "Oh, my dear mother, I am your son Abhimanyu, but see, look at that Krishna, he is dressed like me and he is now trying to come before you. Make sure that he doesn't enter this house." So Jatila, she immediately believed Krishna. She thought Krishna, who is inside the house, he is her son. And so she became so angry at her her real son, Abhimanyu, was walking and coming in, that she beat him up and drove him away. And he was crying, "Mother, mother, what are you doing?" At that time, when seeing this incident and seeing this happen, all the girlfriends of Srimati Radharani, all the gopis who were present there, they all began to smile and a little bit of their teeth was visible. So this is an instance where Hasita smiling is. But when the teeth are very distinctly visible, that smile is called Vihasita. So one day, when Krishna was stealing some butter and yogurt in the house of Jatila, okay, he told his friend, "Oh, I know this old lady, she's going to sleep. She's sleeping very profoundly. I know, I made sure because I could hear her breathing. She's breathing very deeply. So now let us silently steal the butter. We can steal the yogurt. Let's not disturb anybody and we can leave." But this Jatila, this old lady, she was actually not sleeping. She could hear everything that's happening, but she could not contain her smile. And in that, her teeth immediately, when she smiled, her teeth became distinctly visible. So this is Vihasita. Now, now we talked about, those are the three main categories, and there are three minor ones: Avahasita, Apihasita, and Attihasita. Okay, so Avahasita is once when what happens is when the nose is puffed up and eyes are squinting, then the smiling is called Avahasita. Okay, so once early in the morning, Krishna returned home after he performed all his rasa pastimes. Okay, and Mother Yashoda, she looked at Krishna and she looked at his face and she was like, "My dear son, why do your eyes look like they have some some oxide smeared on them? Why are you dressed in Balram's blue color garments?" And while Mother Yashoda, she was addressing Krishna like this, there was a gopi nearby, okay? And she saw this and she started to smile with her squinting eyes and her puffed up nose. And that is an instance of Avahasita, because the gopi knew what's happening. Gopi knew that Krishna went for the rasa dance, but Mother Yashoda, she could not detect that activity of her sons. And she thought that he's covered in Balram's dress when actually he was wearing Gopi's makeup and he had, exchanged clothes with Srimati Radharani. So now that is Avahasita. Okay. So next is Apahasita. So when the tears are there in the eyes and that adds to the smile and the shoulders are shaking, I think this happens to us many times. That smile is called Apahasita. So when Krishna was dancing, when an old maidservant, Jarati, she was asking Krishna to dance. Okay, so when she started singing, Krishna was dancing. Narada Muni was astonished. Okay, that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He controls all the movements of all the demigods like Brahma. And now he is dancing to the tunes of an old maidservant. So seeing this, Narada Muni also began to dance, and his shoulders were trembling and his eyes moved. And because he was smiling, all his teeth were visible. And because of the glaring effulgence from his teeth, the clouds in the skies turned silver. So next is Ati Hasita. So when a smiling person, they clap their hands, they jump up in the air. The smiling expression itself changes into an overwhelming laughter. That is Ati Hasita. Okay, and as this was manifested, and this was manifested in an incident. Okay, so once Krishna, he addressed this Jarati that we are talking about. She said, "Oh, my dear good woman, the skin of your face is now so, slackened. Your face resembles exactly like a monkey. And so the king of monkeys, Balimukha, he has selected you as his worthy wife." So Krishna was teasing her in this way. So she replied that she was aware of the fact that the king of monkey was searching for a marriage, but she had already taken shelter of Krishna, who is the killer of so many powerful demons. And so she has said, "I have decided to get married to you, Krishna, instead of marrying the king of monkeys." So on hearing this, all the cowherd girls who were present there, they all started to laugh very loudly and clap their hands. And that is called Atihasita. Okay. So like this, we just were looking at the different instances when the Lord was crying and then the Lord laughed, and what are some of the other kinds of laughter and the other situations where tears flow from the eyes. Okay, in ecstasy. In the sequence of verses also, here it's mentioned that in his ecstasy, the Lord, he would call out to Advaita Acharya. Why? Because Advaita Acharya is the one who is responsible for the Lord coming down to this planet. And here he was like, "Oh, you called out loudly, and you made me come here, but now you have left." So Advaita Acharya, he was in Shantipur. As we know, he has two homes, one in Shantipur and one in Navadvip. And so Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was calling out for him. And he would say, "I am going to distribute Krishna Prema everywhere, love of Godhead everywhere. So where is this old man? Where did he go?" And also he would start reciting the verses in the mood of Akrura. He would keep offering obeisances. He would fall to the ground like a stick, and he would offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord. And Akrura is that personality who actually attained perfection by offering prayers to the Lord. So those prayers of Akrura are very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So by offering prayers is one of the 9 processes where we talk about hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping the Lord. So along with that, offering prayers is also one of the 9 most potent processes of devotional service. This Akrura's entrance into Lord Krishna's pastimes, this is a very important juncture that actually, where it turns the focus in Srimad Bhagavatam from the sweet nectarian pastimes that Krishna was having in Vrindavan to that of those in Mathura and Dwaraka. So we will look at how Akrura and what happened at that time, okay, how and what led to Akrura coming to Vrindavan Dham. So when Narada Muni finally, so Kamsa, he was constantly sending demons around, and he has already killed he thought that the 8th child of Devaki ended up being a girl. So that's what he thought. So he had attempted to murder even that child, but obviously that child was Maya Devi and Yogamaya, and she appeared in front of Kamsa, and she said that the child who is destined to kill you is already born somewhere else. So after this, Kamsa was sending so many demons all over. He would send so many demons to Vrindavan, and Krishna had to kill a demon, all of those demons continuously to protect the residents of Vrindavan. So when the time was right, Narada Muni, he informed Kamsa that Krishna is the 8th child of Vasudeva and Devaki. And he told him that he is now in Nanda Maharaj's home along with his brother Baladev. And so Kamsa, he was so angry, and obviously he is very evil-minded. So he started scheming new ways of killing Krishna. And for that, first he asked the Keshi demon, please go and attack Vrindavan, attack Krishna and kill him and come back, right? But he anticipated that this is not a plan that's going to work. So he had further instructions for other people. He invited Akrura to come over. And Kamsa, he is very, very cunning. So he was able to secure some personal advantage from Akrura. And he convinced Akrura that it would be in the best interest of everybody if he goes and brings Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. And for this, Kamsa, he had prepared a new chariot. And Akrura, he was seeing the new chariot, Akrura, he gladly accepted because he was so happy that, okay, this is brand new. It is not something that Kamsa has already used, because that is very inappropriate for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to actually mount a chariot that was enjoyed by the evil Kamsa. So Kamsa, what he did was he then started sharing all his evil plan. What he wanted to do. He wanted to install Kuvalaya Pida, and he wanted to have a wrestling match between Chanura Mushtika and Krishna Balaram. So he had different ways and means at different positions to try and finish off Krishna Balaram first. And after that, he decided that he would also annihilate Vasudeva, his entire clan, and he would also massacre his uncle, his father. His uncle is Devaka and his father Ugrasena. Okay, and then he would rule peacefully as the supreme dictator there. So all this plan was revealed to Akrura. And then Keshi demon, he entered Vrindavan. So this Keshi demon took the form of a huge horse, and he charged at, I'm very briefly going to just run through this. He charged at so violently at Krishna, right? And he tried to strike the Lord with his 4 legs. And Krishna, he dodged that, and he held his legs and he threw the Keshi demon so far. And when Keshi came back to his consciousness, he again came back to attack Krishna. And so Krishna used his left fist. He put that in the Keshi demon's mouth. That was sizzling hot inside the mouth of Keshi demon. And that fist of Krishna's, it expanded in size and it completely choked Keshi to death. So Narada Muni, after he went and shared all the, whatever is going to happen and, Krishna's presence to Kamsa, Narada Muni had come to Vrindavan to actually see the Supreme Lord in Rajbhumi. And at that time, so Narada saw this, he witnessed this, and he glorified Lord Krishna, and he predicted what was actually going to happen in the near future. Okay, and what were the activities that Lord Krishna would perform in Mathura, what he is going to do in Dwaraka. And after saying all this, Narada Muni said, okay, you will have to leave Vrindavan pretty soon. And Narada Muni, he offered his prayers and he left from there. So now Krishna already knows that this is what is going to happen. Very soon Akrura is going to come. And Akrura is going to take him, him and Balram. So it was at that time that the very last demon that Krishna killed in Vrindavan, he entered. So I have a question. Does anyone know who that last demon is?
Was it Vyomasura?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yes. So it was the demon Vyomasura. He could fly. And this Vyomasura, one day, while all the, cowherd boys were tending to their cows, Krishna and Balaram, they're tending to their cows and they decide to play some games. So they thought, okay, let us play hide and seek. So some boys, they took the roles of sheep and some were taking the roles of thieves and the others were shepherds. So the shepherds have to search and find these sheep while the thieves are going to steal them. So this game was really very, it was at a perfect time for Vyomasura. So this Vyomasura, he dressed himself like a cowherd boy also. And he joined in this game and he joined in the band of thieves because he wants to steal all the kids. So he started taking all these, the kids that were taking the role of the sheep. He started abducting those cowherd boys one at a time, and he would take them because he can fly. He would take them into a mountain cave and he would keep them there inside the cave, trapped in the cave. And he shut the entrance to that cave with a big boulder. Okay, so slowly, Krishna started noticing that there are just 4 or 5 sheep left. All the, cowherd boys who are pretending to be sheep left. Krishna, he looked and he was so angry because he had already killed the Keshi demon that day. So he was in a little, he had a bad temper. So when he saw what Vyomasura was doing, he immediately ran after him. He saw that Vyomasura was, holding on to another cowherd boy, was going to take him. So he ran, he just grabbed him and he killed him by strangling him, just like how one would kill a sacrificial animal. So Krishna, then he smashed that boulder that was blocking the cave's entrance and he took out all the trapped cowherd boys back safely. Now, in all this hustle, bustle, and confusion, they decided, okay, it's time for them to sit down to eat lunch. But what happened? And so they went to the sacred place called Bhojanasthali. Okay, but because of this confusion, some of these Gopa boys, they lost their lunch bags. Some of them, their lunch had gotten spoiled. And so most of them didn't have anything much to eat. So they were all sitting there very disheartened. And Krishna and Balaram were also with them. Krishna, he was so, he was well aware that this is going to be his last meal with his friends, with his cowherd boys friends. And so he wanted to make sure that this is a very, very memorable meal. So he invoked his Poshana Shakti, he invoked his maintenance potency, and he manifested a huge feast over there. A lot of food and drinks, and were manifested there. All the cowherd boys were actually speechless. And they were, wow, okay, they were so happy. And they started taking huge portions of this meal, and Krishna and Balram also enjoyed their meals with him, with the cowherd boys. And while this was happening, Balramji, he spilled some of his kheer, and to the amazement of all the cowherd boys, this kheer, it flowed over a big stone, and it created a lake, which is known as Kheer Sagar. So if anybody has gone to Vrindavan, they would have also gotten an opportunity to see this place. This stone where this milk or this kheer spilled, that stain mark still remains. It has an impression. It's known as Bhojanatali stone. So it has actually an Bhojana thali stone. So it has an impression of Krishna's thali, his plate, along with this kheer stain. So while they were all eating like this and sharing, their meal and having a nice time, on the other side, Krishna could hear the sound of the gopis. So for some time, he decided to share some pastimes there and go to meet them. Okay, so he spent some time with the gopis, and soon, since it was getting dark, Krishna and the Gopa boys had to return back to Nandagram with their cows. And normally, what is a very joyous occasion, they're going back, they will have a lot of laughter, a lot of singing, the cows would also be moving, and Krishna would be playing his flute. On that particular day, the acharyas say that there was laughter, there was the sound of boys singing and the cows moving, but Krishna's flute sound was missing. Because Krishna knew that this is his very last night with all his friends, his cowherd friends. So his heart was so full of sorrow at the prospect of leaving Vrindavan that night, the next morning. So he was unable to lift his flute. So he couldn't play any songs on it either. But the cowherd boys, they did not know this. So they assumed, Krishna is missing his favorite gopi, Srimati Radharani. The only one who knew the reason was Lord Balram. And he realized that Krishna has a very heavy heart. He's very sad that they're going to leave the next morning for Mathura, and after that they're going to Dwaraka. They never know when they're going to come back again to Vrindavan. So understanding this, Balaram, he kept a comforting hand on his brother's shoulder all the way till Nandagram. So very, very nectarian, sweet pastimes that show how much the Lord also feels separation from his devotees. So Akrura was ordered to go to Vrindavan on Ekadashi night. So in the month of Falgun, one sec. Sorry. So he spent that night of Ekadashi in Mathura, and after that Akrura left early the next day. That is when all this Vyomasura pastime happened. And that's when Narada Muni also had come. He offered prayers to Krishna, and Vyomasura was killed that day. And at dusk, Akrura entered the Lord's village. And once Akrura, he was so overjoyed that he is coming to Vrindavan. He wasn't paying attention to where he is going, how he is going, nothing. He was just constantly meditating on how it would be, that first meeting with the Supreme Lord. And he was so eagerly waiting. So when he finally, but somehow he arrived in Gokul. When he finally arrived in Gokul, he saw that all over he could see the footprints of the Supreme Lord. Just marked with, because how did he know? Because they were marked with the lotus, a barley corn, the elephant goad. And so he stepped out of his chariot and he started rolling in the dust of Krishna's footprints. And then he slowly continued in. After he got back on his chariot, he continued to Vrindavan, and he finally saw Krishna and Balaram. At that time, Akrura, he was so overwhelmed with affection, he just jumped down from his chariot and he fell at the feet of Krishna and Balaram, just like a rod. Just like how here we see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he was falling down and offering obeisances like a rod. And the brothers, they greeted him, they washed their feet, his feet, and Nanda Maharaj served him a very nice feast. And at that time, Akrura explained to Krishna and Balram about all of Kamsa's atrocities, what his plan was. There was nothing, he had nothing to hide from the Lord. He knew that the Lord knows what Akrura's intentions are and his purity. And so he explained everything. He said what his plan is, how he wants to try and kill Krishna Balram by summoning in them to Mathura. And on hearing all this, the brothers were very, they were chuckling at Kamsa's antics. They were very happy that, okay, fine, this is going to come to an end anyway. So they agreed to go. But the gopis couldn't. They are the only ones who actually expressed their intense separation from the Lord. And they tried to, They expressed their separation from the Lord, and so they tried to stop the chariot. They cried out to the Lord, "O Govinda, O Damodara, O Madhava." And Krishna, he consoled them and said, he sent them a message that, yes, I will return. Okay, so after this, Akrura, he led the chariot with Krishna and Balram and Nanda Maharaj and many of the cowherd men and the cowherd boys, along with so many gifts for Kamsa. They all went towards the city of Mathura. So there also, when Akrura, in the middle, he halted the chariot at the Yamuna, and Krishna touched water for purification, and Akrura decided that, okay, I'm going to take a bath in the waters of Yamuna. And he went into the waters and he saw Krishna and Balram in the river. And so he got out of the river to see what happened, and there he saw that Krishna and Balram are again in the chariot. So then Akrura was thinking, okay, maybe I am just seeing Krishna everywhere. So he went back and he again tried to take a dip in the Yamuna when he could see the four-armed form of the Supreme Lord being worshipped by all the various great personalities. And he was lying on Ananta Shesha. And so then, after witnessing all this, Akrura, he bowed down to the Lord and he offered a series of prayers. We're not going to look at the prayers, but this is a part of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 39. Okay, and he glorified all the various incarnations of the Lord and who appeared to drive away all the unhappiness of those people who are peacefully engaged in the process of devotional service. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was reciting these prayers in his ecstatic mood. So after this, the next section of the Chaitanya Bhagavat here, this chapter talks about how Lord takes the form of Varahadev. And somehow today I just stumbled across this pastime where, so here we are looking at the pastime where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took the form of Varahadev. So I also saw in that in Krishna's pastimes also, there is a pastime where Lord Varahadev appeared. So this pastime is where once when the cowherd boy, so I thought I'll just narrate it. I was not sure how and why I got it. So I thought, okay, I won't get an opportunity to narrate this later. So this is just a slight preview of what's going to happen next week, but from Lord Krishna's pastimes. So I thought I'll just very quickly tell you that. So once these cowherd boys, they were all ready to wrestle with each other. Okay, so at the tail end of Govardhan, there are two lakes. One is called Apsarakund. So boys were going there to wrestle. And they divided themselves into two groups. Balaram's older, so all the older boys went on that side. And all the younger cowherd boys went on Krishna's side. So before they start wrestling, normally they would end up in a shouting match. They would start challenging each other. Balram would say, oh, we are bigger, we are stronger. And then the other side would be like, no, we are bigger, we are stronger. And then this arguing, this shouting would normally go on for some time. And at that time, what happened is, this time Balram was making a lot of fun of Krishna. He said, oh, this Krishna, he's so much smaller than me. And the other cowherd boys were like, yeah, he needs Balram for help and he plays with the girls. So what kind of a boy is he? He is always there. So we have beaten him so many times. And so they were making fun of Krishna. And so Krishna, he was slowly getting angry. And he didn't like that he was being ridiculed. So he stood up and he came to the center of the two sides. And he said, I am stronger than anyone in this universe. What to speak of you cowherd boys? And hearing this, Balram was laughing so hard that he fell over. Okay, he was like, okay, now the younger brother Krishna, he is saying that he's stronger than me. So and his laughter made Krishna all the more angry. And so Krishna became so red, his eyes became so red with anger that he said, okay, you want to see my prowess? You want to see what I can do? And immediately, without warning them also, Krishna changed forms into a gigantic angry boar, and he stood on his rear legs and he was as high as the clouds. He had a very fearful tusk, and with that tusk he started moving the dust of Vrindavan. And it was like, okay, or he was like, do you think I am weak? Do you think I am weak? This Varaha, they've started speaking in a very loud voice. And my dear Balram, my dear friends, you watch me as I lift this entire planet with my tusk. So Krishna, in this form, he's picked up the whole of Vrindavan and the earth, and everything started to shake, and the cowherd boys were rolling down, and they were all falling, and they were scared, and they started crying out, Krishna, Krishna, please save us, please forgive us. I'm so sorry for this. And Krishna was not going to be pacified that easily. He didn't like that the older boys were ridiculing him. Okay, so he continued lifting the earth more and more, and the boys started rolling down, down, down. And so they all turned to Balram. Balram, you have to save us. What do? So Balram was like, Madhumangal, start reciting the Purusha Sukta. So Madhumangal, he was so afraid. And in that fear, in that nervousness, his voice was faltering and he could not chant the Purusha Sukta properly. So Balram said, no, this is not going to work. And he asked, so one of the cowherd boys, Raktaka, he came to Balram and he whispered an idea in Balram's ears, and Balram thought, oh, this is very good. And they said, okay, please solve the problem, Balram. And so what did Balramji do? He fell on the ground and he paid obeisances to his younger brother in the form of the boar. And he said, I'm so sorry, you please forgive us. And all the cowherd boys, they all lined up and they all tried to offer obeisances to the Lord. Krishna said, okay, no more ridiculing me anymore in the future. You see how strong I am? And then Krishna, he assumed his original form. And he tightened his belt, he put his flute back and his bugle horn, and then he took all of the dust from his hands and he just, patted them all away, and he smiled at all his friends. And his friends were so shocked that, they saw him transform from Krishna to this huge boar and back to Krishna. So, but then what happened? Very quickly, that fear that the boys had, it just disappeared when they saw Krishna. And they were like, how did you do that, Krishna? And Subala patted Krishna on his back. He said, oh, very good, my friend, very well done. You know so much magic. I don't know how you did it. And all of them started embracing Krishna, and they completely forgot about the wrestling match. And after this, they went to Surabhi Kund for a swim. So, and there all of them were imitating the noise made by Varahadev, his roar and the strength of Varahadev. So they all became very convinced that now Krishna is going to be able to defeat anyone in a wrestling match. And that is a pastime of Lord Krishna as Varahadev. So I just thought I'll share that just because I saw, but that's all I have for today. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Thank you for your kind attention, and thank you so much for being here today. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for the opportunity. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'd like to end the call here, class here. If anybody has any realizations to share, I know this is more of just some pastimes, but it was Janmashtami, so I thought, okay, I'll just take this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Vinita Mataji. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Mataji, go ahead.
Can I go ahead? Okay. Thank you so much, Indulekha Mataji. What an amazing class. It was so good, and it was like, I don't know, I just enjoyed it so much after such a long break there hearing from you. Thank you so much for coming on the call and doing this class. It was so good to hear. Mataji, I have a few questions. I learned so much from this class. Then I think the first, I really like the way you laid out the class, first of all, with the ecstatic symptoms of Mahaprabhu, going through nectar of devotion, explaining about the different emotions of tears, of laughter, of ecstatic symptoms. Everything was very, very nicely laid out. And then talking about the demons, last few demons who came, Bhojantali and so many other sweet pastimes, and finally ending with the Varahadev pastime. Everything was very beautiful, Mataji. The entire class was so engaging. Mataji, the two questions I had was, let me see if I can put it in words. I think this was from Nectar of Devotion when you were explaining about the life airs when it mixes with earth, when it mixes with fire, and when it mixes with water. So these directly, do they mean when you say earth, water, and fire, do they mean Kapha, Vata, Pitta? Is that what they are trying to say when the life airs is?
That's how I understood, but I did not read further on it or search for a further explanation. But I thought it is in connection with the earth, water, fire, air elements within the body. Yeah.
Body, right? Like depending if they say that if
we lost you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, sorry, I think my connection was bad. So my question was, so which means that if water was more, it is kapha, and if earth is more, it is vata, and fire is more, it's pitta. So like that, when the life airs, they mingle when the element is high. That is when these different symptoms that are exhibiting actually show up. Is that what it is?
That's how it was written, Mataji. I mean, it's I did not research further into it. Yeah, but that's what they're saying.
Okay, Mataji, that was one question. And then later I had actually one other question I forgot, but I remember the third question is that Varahadev pastime. I was in and out. So what was the like reference that they are telling for the pastime? Meaning it should be from some Acharya's work, right? So,
yes, this is a parikrama class. Vrindavan Parikrama class by His Holiness Indradimna Swami Maharaj.
Oh, that's sweet. Very, very nice, Mataji. So can you actually, I did miss some parts because I was in and out. So was it that the boys, it was a game and the boys were, one team was angry with the other, so Krishna took the Varahadev form? Is that what you were explaining? No.
Before they started the wrestling match, they normally have, the challenge that they try to shout at each other, they try to challenge each other. So at that time, and they do this normally, but that day Krishna got a little more angry. So that And when and in his anger, he manifested this pastime.
Oh, nice. Nice. I also like the other thing that you were mentioning about how on the last day Krishna did not play his flute. He was very sad and only Balram. Yeah, very nice, Mataji. So many things you have dug up from, so many references, so many places, and what an amazing presentation. You should really come forward and give more classes. Thank you, Mataji. It was such a worthwhile class. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
So much for the opportunity, Mataji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all the acharyas, because and just repeating the words of Srila Prabhupada from Nectar of Devotion and from all our Gurujanas. Thank you so much, Mataji. And today is Labor Day weekend, so normally this is a class that you should be giving today. So thank you once again for.
Let's see. It can be anybody, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Mataji, for Nectarian Katha of Krishna Katha. Especially, I'm so happy because you started Krishna Katha for this week. Today is Monday, and it is so happy to hear you. Thank you, Mataji. All the Krishna pastimes, starting from first ecstatic symptoms you started saying, and other laughing, all that from Nectar of Devotion. So many pastimes. I really like that Abhimanyu pastime. We see that picture also, and the other one, they were putting Krishna something else instead of some sweet or something.
I have that picture.
Yeah, you were showing us last time. Yeah, I was remembering about that picture that you have on your wall. You were showing, and you were laughing how everybody's making naughty to Krishna. Okay, all the time Krishna wants to trouble everyone. This time everyone is troubling Krishna. So it's so beautiful, Mataji. Each and every pastime that you are explaining was really very nice, and it's all Krishna pastimes. So happy. The verses also suit very nicely. It's not just you just spoken Krishna pastime somewhere else, not related to the verses or something like that. Everything made so correctly, Mataji. Your desire to speak Krishna Katha helped you these verses.
Thank you so much.
Krishna knows, Mataji, our desires. So Krishna plans everything according to our desire. Really wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. As usual, utilize very nicely holiday, Mataji. I need to learn this. I always say that I need to learn. I'm still saying that, but still not implementing at all. I one day hopefully implement my holiday very nicely, full of Krishna consciousness, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, you are here and you are listening, and any opportunity that comes, it need not come to you. You are there all the time on Bhakti Sangha. So you are utilizing every minute, not like us. So thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for your sweet, encouraging words. And I have a lot of comments here on the Zoom chat. So Parima Mataji is saying, beautiful narration. Thank you so much, Mataji. And who's this? Okay, Harita Mataji, Hare Krishna. Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for wonderful session and very nice description. Hare Krishna. And Ishimati Mataji, what a beautiful class with the sweet pastimes of our dearest Krishna. You took Sridham Vrindavan. Yes, that Bhojana Thali and all that pastimes of Lord Vrindavan. We saw Parikrama. Yes, pastimes with Gopas. Krishna book. Abhimanyu pastime. Yeah, she also likes Abhimanyu pastime.
And I think Mataji also in Rajmandal Parikrama, she has shown us a picture.
Yeah, she has shown that picture. I was remembering her class too when you are telling me, because she always puts the pictures, right? That makes us clearly understand what is this pastime. Yeah, who is this? Okay, you were giving some explanation. Okay, Mataji. Excellent session, more like Janmashtami class, as I said. Yeah, I said right, Mataji, it was like Janmashtami class, and I don't know if this whole week is Janmashtami. You are the starter of this session. Kirtida Mataji is saying that
this week will be followed by wonderful speakers. Tomorrow we'll have Amarendra Prabhu. Day after we'll have Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. So it is, and Ram Giridhari Prabhu for Srila Prabhupada. So thank you, everybody. Please join us, and thank you so much for coming today. I know it's a long weekend. Everybody has the day off, but thank you for joining.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for Nectarian Krishna Katha. Is there anybody having any realizations or any questions? Please go ahead at this point. Okay. Okay, Sita Priti Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Sita Priti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to your wonderful, wonderful class. Mataji, like I just had one when you were saying the pastimes, like when Krishna gets angry. So these pastimes, when it is with his friends, like I don't know, this must be just a discussion also. Like what must be the feeling of the Gopas when do they understand that yes, Krishna is getting angry, or do they find pleasure when Krishna is getting angry? Just like how when Krishna, like when we are in trouble, it is not the trouble, right? Like Krishna is checking our patience and everything when we say that. Like what must be, again, this is open for everyone maybe. Like what must be the feeling of the Gopas? Like have they, like do they get the feeling that yes, now we are troubling Krishna? You know, that thing, does it happen that way? What do you feel like? I just always think from the other end, what must Krishna be feeling? Like we always have this saying that how
Yeah.
Mahaprabhu came to experience what the devotees feel, right? Like, so what must be this going on in the Goloka, right?
And so that fear that they had also, it just lasted for a few moments. The moment Krishna resumed his original form, the Gopas were like, they were not afraid anymore. They are just so happy and they embraced Krishna. So I don't know if they felt like, oh, we were troubling Krishna, but maybe they might be a little careful before they provoke Krishna next time. But yeah.
Wonderful, Mataji. Very, very nice. And like, that the happiness or the vibrance of the stories, it is clearly seen on your face, Like I'm just looking at you when you're saying the story. It was so natural, so smoothly you are transitioning from these stories. It's wonderful, Mataji. You're blessed. And we are blessed that we heard you. So thank you so much. And as Priti Vilasini Mataji said, you should come for more classes, Mataji. You're a natural speaker.
Mataji, I'm waiting to hear from you too, Mataji. Waiting for your class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hari Bol.
Thank you.
We'll have that soon, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for arranging. I know today it was like anybody could speak today, but you gave me an opportunity. Very, very happy. Thank you. I was crying until the very end, but I was like, okay, no matter, you find somebody else. But yeah, sorry.
You are, if Riti Mataji approaches someone now, it will definitely, they will give her the class because it's a potency coming from her. So it's no worries.
Yeah,
You don't have to worry, Mataji. Just believe on her words. That's it. That's what I do. Because I don't have any capability to do. She says, okay, this you want to do, that's okay. Yeah, no question of saying no. Not only that, anything else also. Yeah, if some devotee is giving a service, the potency is also coming with them. So we have to just accept the service and just go ahead. That's it, Mataji.
beautifully said, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah, if there is no
Krishna
more question,
Mataji,
yeah, Harita
Dandavat
Mataji, go
Pranam.
ahead.
Hare
All
Krishna.
goes to Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, that was a wonderful session, Mataji. It was very nice narrations of so many pastimes. Almost like I was listening to Krishna book. I felt like those pastimes, what you are telling. And Mataji, I think you should be added to the list of the speakers for like the weekly Chaitanya Bhagavat class, Mataji, because you have narrated so nicely. I felt like that you have that potency, Mataji. So try to give classes as much as possible, Mataji, whenever it is feasible for you. It's nice to listen from you. Hare Krishna.
Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Harita Mataji. Okay. Is there anybody else having any realizations? Okay, Darshini Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Mataji, very, very sweet class. I was just reflecting on this one scenario when you were telling that when Akrura came to Vrindavan, he told Krishna and Balram Kamsa's plan completely, right? I was contrasting that with the Ramayana, where I was listening to one class by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu. He was telling that when Marichi actually was told by Ravan to fight against, to deceive Ram and take Sita, Marichi actually told Ravan that actually Ram is very powerful. I can't win against him. But because he didn't want to die in the hands of Ravan, he wanted to die in the hands of Ram. He went to Ram, he deceived Ram, and he was killed in the hands of Ram and Lakshman, and he died in the hands of Ram. But Prabhuji was also telling, if Marichi thought a little bit, he could have gone and revealed Ravan's plan to Ram, and he could have, died in the hands of Ram as a servant of Ram. He didn't get that goodness. I mean, he didn't get that, how do you say, that luckiness, that happiness of dying as a devotee. So I was just contrasting with Akrura, where, Akrura being a good devotee of the Lord, being a pure devotee of the Lord, as soon as he came to Vrindavan, he revealed everything to Krishna and Balram and, surrendered everything unto him. So I was reflecting on this one point that, devotee versus demoniac mentality.
Wonderful.
And I was also thinking about this Vyomasur pastime. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. And I was also thinking about this Vyomasur pastime when, Krishna told his friends to become sheep. So I was just thinking on this. I don't know if I'm right or not. Like, even if even if we have to become like a sheep to please Krishna and Guru, we should do that. And by mistake, even if we fall down also and we are thrown into the cave of darkness, Guru and Krishna will break through that darkness, come pick us up and take us out. So I was reflecting on this. Thank you so much, Mataji. Dandat Pranams. Very sweet class. Please pray for me that I'm able to imbibe all this.
Very wonderful realizations, Mataji. Thank you so much for sharing that here. Hare Krishna. Dandat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandat Pranams. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. So yeah, I was like, while you were talking about Marichi, I was just thinking about Hanuman. When Hanuman first goes to meet Lord Ram, he goes he goes dressed as a Brahmana, right? But then the moment Lord Rama asks him to reveal share some information, immediately Hanuman, he tells everything, that he is Hanuman, he is the minister of Sugriva, and he shared all and he was able to relay the entire his past completely, without any fear, without suppressing anything, without hiding anything from the Lord. Although Hanuman has his speech is so perfect that he can easily convince anybody with whatever he wants to say. But yeah, it was. We can end here, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Okay, we can end the call here. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas assembled on the call. Vancha kalpataro bhyasya kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Her Grace Indulekha Karuna Mataji ki jai.
Jai.
Mataji,
Hare Krishna Mataji.
saying such a beautiful
Very
place.
nice and sweet class.
Krishna, thank you, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
All.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Ending the call here, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.